Good to go. Okay. So I'm going to do some sort of refactoring. It's not really a refactoring because I'm not going to refactor. I'm just going to simplify the problem and then do some iterations. So recently with Alex, Ika, and Shadi, we've been working on some React things. So what they added is that this page is now paginated. Well, the styling is still to be done, but the idea is that we fetch all of the matches at the beginning. There's like a spinner with a Pac-Man. I'm not going to throttle to show you, but trust me. And then you can go back and forth. So the thing is, this is the code that is powering this page. So as you can see, there's a lot of lines, and the shape is kind of smelly. But at the same time, I really want to, I'm super surprised because like Alex, Ika, and Shadi came up with this without knowing any React, without knowing how to fetch things in JavaScript, without knowing anything about promises. And this happened in a matter of a few days, maybe a couple of weeks. Difficult to say how long because we didn't really work every day, 8 hours a day. But this was really good work. And in general, like we all of us know that this is an intermediate step, and probably we still need to refactor at least one step more. What's to be improved in this code, in my opinion, is that, as you can see, there's some logic related to fetching the data. So some statuses, and there's some logic down below where we fetch things and stuff like that. There's also some logic related to the pagination, as you can see here, and in the component. And also there's some logic related to how to render things. Like if it's empty, we render that the list is empty, and otherwise we delegate to another component. So the thing here is that this kind of breaks the single responsibility principle. And actually, also, we can't really reuse single pieces of this component, because if we need pagination, then we need to copy-paste stuff out from here and reapply it somewhere else. Also, the fetching part is not independent, so we can't reuse that. And also, the rendering is kind of mixed with other concerns. So the way I like to address these sort of things is like, this is like too complicated. There are too many details that don't really matter when it comes to decoupling those responsibilities. So I'm going to simplify the problem to something where we have the same complexity, but there's less noise when it comes to details. So I'm going to use jsonplaceholder, which is a nice website where they give you some endpoints where you can get some hard-coded data. And in particular, like here they say how to use it. In particular, we're going to use these posts, which gives us a list of posts, 100 posts actually, and for that reason the ID goes from 1 to 100. Okay, so let's make it happen. So first of all,
are you recording?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So first of all, let's use create React app, and let's call it, I don't know, TMP. Nice. Maybe TMP is better. I can do it. Okay, so this is going to, probably most of you already saw this. This creates, like, this scaffolds a React app with a lot of utilities that are super nice. In particular, we're going to use the server that serves the page and auto reloads whenever we change the source code. And as I told you, we are going to work on 3 different concerns, and we want to keep them separated. One is fetching data, another one is paginating the data, and the third one is rendering the data that we have. And we want to keep them separated. So let's do this. We go to our awesome folder. Okay, so The idea is that we have some upscaled and we can also serve it, as I told you, by using our dev server. So we can do yarn start. Drum roll. Okay, so this is the app that is created by Create React App, and as you can see, is things that are coming from here. So for now, I'd say let's remove all of this, and let's render 1, 2, 3. Okay, it works. Also, let's remove this because I don't like styling. So it looks ugly. Okay. Okay. So again, fetching, pagination, and rendering. We want to keep them separated. Let's start with fetching. So the idea is that I want to be able to do something like instead of rendering 1, 2, 3, I want to use something, a component that I will call RemoteData, and pass it a URL, which is actually our list of posts from here. And this component will inside fetch our stuff. Okay, so let's start by building that. So let's say we have a render. And here, let's say we return 1, 2, 3, 4. We call it RemoteData. And of course, that doesn't make sense. No, sorry. Let's say it's a div 4. Okay. And, you know, super simple stuff, but I like to do baby steps. Okay, so let's say that here we want to fetch data, right? So we need to start with some state, and the data we're going to fetch, we assume it's an array. I will come back to this later on, but at the beginning it's empty. And we say that the status is not asked, because we still need to start fetching stuff. This still works. Okay, so and the idea here is that what we do is that on component did mount, we want to fetch our stuff. So we do fetch, we use our props.url, and then we do response, we take out the JSON out of the response. And also we want to do something else, which is put that array of posts, for now it's posts, we want to put them into the state. So we do set state, this.state, status success. Now we still need to do another thing because we want to handle 4 states, statuses, sorry. So here we want to do this.set status and say, give me all of the state that I already have, and add status pending. Nice. What's wrong here?
You need set state, not set
Yeah. Nice. The wisdom of the crowd. Okay, so this still works. The thing is that this is something I see a lot of people doing. There's a problem with this code, which is actually when you say this.setState to React, it's asynchronous. You just tell React what you want to happen at some point when React has time. But we want this to happen before we start fetching, because otherwise the statuses would be, it's possible that we get into success and then we put pending, because we are not choosing the order of the operations. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to create a function here, fetch data, and I'm going to pass it as a second argument here. So the idea is that now we tell React, after you've put status to pending, then do whatever I gave you as a callback. There's also another thing we need to do, which is like what happens in case stuff fails. I won't take care of the error for now, but we say set state, and here we want to preserve the state that is there, and then add status failure. Okay, it still works. We're still not doing anything with the response, so let's do that. So now we know that that we get some data with this fetch, so we can actually put that data in here. And by the way, this is equivalent to this, so I will do that. This still works. And now we can actually say something here like this.props.data. Let's do like let's have a thingy here that is render underscore, and we define this here, const render underscore. This takes an array of stuff and does array.map. So we're getting a list of posts. I will take out the ID and I will concatenate them with a comma. So we can do map x.id .join. Nice. Yeah. Okay, all of the IDs from 1 to 100. Now, this is again a mess. We just mixed rendering with fetching, but we can do something really awesome here. So let's say that instead of passing just a URL here, I'm also passing what I want to do. No, well, okay, let's do another thing first. So first of all, I'm going to do an if, and I'm going to check what's the status. And if it's not asked, I will do something. And if it's let's say pending, I will do something else. And also we need to handle success, and also we need to handle failure. And also, just for the sake of feeling safe, I will put here a throw new error in case we get into another branch, because it shouldn't ever happen. We have 4 states and statuses, and we can't ever go anywhere else. Okay, so what do we do? This pattern is awesome because every time you need to fetch data, you always need to fetch to handle all of those store statuses. There's no escape from that. So making it explicit is going to make you remember not to forget anything. So here, let's say we are not asked. We return, let's say, a spinner, like just a string for now, inside a div. If in pending we do another spinner, in success we're going to see. Here we say, I'm not going to really handle it super well, so let's say failure. And if stuff worked, so we are in the success, we will do the same thing as before.
It's since you have 2 successes.
Where's that?
On the bottom.
Thanks. Okay, it's still working the same. I didn't really do much. The thing is, there's a flash of spinner, like in the top left corner, because we are handling the not asked and pending right now. So the magic happens here. Let's say that instead of doing this, I'm going to say, okay, if you are not asked, I want you to render spinner. So here, instead of doing that, we're going to say this.props.not asked. And there's still that spinner popping up. And we're going to do the same here for pending. And also for failure, we're going to do something similar. And now we can use our stuff. So here I can say, did I call it failure? Yeah. Okay, stuff still works, but we still have this problem here. We are still, this component still knows how to render stuff, so we can't reuse it because another caller probably would need stuff rendered in a different way. So we can do something else here. Let me do something that doesn't make sense for now. It will in a second. So instead of passing a string here, I will pass a function that returns this stuff. And I will do the same for this one. And I will do the same here. Failure. So this doesn't make sense for now, but bear with me for a second. So here, instead of doing return all of that, we are going to return that. And here we're going to return that. And here the same. It's working the same. Now the magic happens here. So this stuff is encoded now, but since we know that we can pass functions in, we can actually do this thing outside. So then we can call return props dot success this dot state dot data. And if we do that, then the component doesn't know anything about let's say business logic. So here we say success and here we get actually the posts, and here we do render underscore posts. Which of course doesn't work because unexpected token, this one goes here. Okay, so what did we achieve here? This is like, in my opinion, like really interesting. So right now, this remote data component doesn't know anything about the posts. It just knows that it needs to go and fetch some stuff. It needs to know how to manage the 4 statuses, because we are always going to need to manage that. But it doesn't know anything about the business domain. You just pass it in how to handle the success branch. And you, of course, you could always do the same. Like, instead of passing a string spinner, you can pass a spinner component inside here. And instead of passing like that stuff rendered, I could pass another component here. So I can go as deep as I want. So this solves one part of the problem, which is fetching stuff. Now we need to solve also the other part, which is the pagination. So for now, let me do something like this. I will stop using RemoteData for a second. And here, I want to use a component which is called paginated, which gets an array of things. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4 for now. And what this is supposed to do is to paginate the array into the slices of the array, right? So each page is a slice of the array. So we can build it here, paginated. And again, let me do something like this here. Return div 1, 2, 3. It works. Okay, so what do we need to do here? We want to start with an initial state where we say that we are on page 0 currently. And also for now, I will put this here. Probably it's not the best place, but I would say per page 2. So each page has 2 elements. And the thing here is that let's do something similar to before. Then we are going to get out of this mess with the refactoring. So let's say I have another the same render function as before. Let's say that let's put us in the same situation we're going to find ourselves later. So these are IDs. It's like post stuff, but we just care about the ID. Okay. And here, for now, we are going to say render this.props.array. Okay, so for now, we're not doing anything useful. So let me copy some stuff because I'm not able to do it live coding this part. So first of all, we want to take out page from the state. Then we want to take per page. And then we want to use a stupid name here, which is to show, which is it's going to be our slice of the array we want to show doing the calculations for the page. And this to show is this.props.array.slice, and then some ugly calculations that probably shouldn't be here. We take from that index to page times per page plus per page. Okay, so we have that, and now what we want to do is that here, instead of render this.props.array, we want to render to show. And let's say we want to do that only if this.props.array.length is more than 0. Okay, let's see. Okay, so now we said we start from the page 0 with 2 elements per page. So this is why we are showing 1, 2 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we need some other stuff here because we probably want the controls for the pagination. So here we can say something like that we have a button which on click is going to use a function which is called go to, and in this case it's going to go to the previous page. So this is a minus, and also we need to go to the next page. Cool. What's up here? Okay, so we don't have got the goTo function, so let's just have something like go to offset and nothing. So we have the buttons now, and let's say that that I will show this. Well, whatever. This is like just polishing it up. You can do it at home. Nice. Okay, so this function just needs to do something simple, which is this dot set state, and here we take the current state and we add page, and then this dot state dot page plus offset, which hopefully makes more or less sense. Not to React. Does anybody see the problem? I don't. So let's do this. Why is that? This dot set state. Okay, first page, second page. There's some, probably we should check the boundaries of the page. We are not like, this probably would crash if I go twice, whatever, doesn't really matter. So the thing here is that we are still we still have rendering logic inside, but we can totally do the same as before. So instead of doing that, we are going to say, listen, I'm giving you this array, and I want you to render it this way. Render equals, and then here we pass our render. So let's make it more explicit. So we have posts, and we pass the posts here. And here, what we do is that instead of using that render, we just say this.props.render. Still failing, 75, I probably commented this. Okay, so again, this works the same. And what we achieved here again is that this component doesn't know anything, like zero, about what it's rendering. Just taking stuff creating a slice of the array, and then rendering it alongside with the controls for the page. So the thing is, like, it would be really awesome if we could put together remote data and paginate it, which we can, because I wouldn't keep you here for 20 minutes just to say we can't do that. So let's make it happen. So we move remote data here, and remember that in the app we have for now, we are fetching everything at once, the beginning, and then we paginate it. Probably a better approach would be to do pagination and then fetching each page, but for now we do this, so whatever. So we fetch the data from that URL, and then when we are successfully done, instead of taking the posts that are not paginated and passing them to the render function, we render a component, and as the array, we pass the posts. Okay, so let's see what we achieved here. We have separated fetching, pagination, and rendering. And that's because remote data doesn't know anything about the data it's handling. It's just taking stuff from the internet and putting them, and keeping them, so that then it can render them depending on how the caller decide, not on how the component itself decide. So this means that we can reuse this component anywhere we need to fetch data. Also, here I'm not doing it, but we could add prop types to remote data and say that URL, not asked, failure, pending, success are all required, because they are required, and if you forget to pass them, you just forgot. It's a bug and you forgot. So if we pass prop types required, then at least we have a warning in the console. It's not as remote data comes from Elm. In Elm is much cooler because the type system wouldn't even compile if you didn't have one of the branches. But we need to deal with React. And then we have the paginated component, which is just slicing an array and giving us the control to go on back and forth in the pages. And again, it doesn't know anything about what's rendering because we are passing the render function as a prop. So there's a couple of things here. The first one is that we always assume that the data is an array, which is not that bad. I mean, going to abstract in an app is never a good idea, so stopping at some level is okay. And to me, this was okay, but we can still pass in more props and handle, let's say, if the response is an object instead of an array. We can add the prop types, as I said. And probably, as I said, we should fetch page by page instead of fetching everything first and then paginating it. But this is, to me, this is beautiful to me. I mean, the caller decides everything, and each component can be reused anywhere because it's the component saying how to render things. So this is all I have. Thanks.